Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fear No Video Masterclass. I am so pumped that you're here. Today is going to be just as exciting as all the other days. You know, I'm so excited about every guest and every topic. But today we're talking about software and systems and all the things that we need. And so with us today, we have Charles Nicholson, who's the co-founder of Right Tech, and he is going to set us straight when it comes to all the things that we need to run our businesses better. So Charles, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Very happy to be here and excited to meet everyone.
Yeah, I'm excited for everyone to hear what you have to say because, technology and software, it's not like natural to a lot of people, right? Especially when you're over a certain age, like some of us here. It's, you didn't grow up with all of the technology. And so when you're trying to run your business and you're trying to automate, especially, we're going to talk about automation too, so I'm really excited about that. But, just trying to get all of that stuff together, it can be a little daunting. And so you're going to help us out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you're spot on like that. In terms of what I do, the biggest part is there is so much overwhelm, like you Google software for content creation and you'll get pages and pages. And so, yeah, it's really trying to kind of demystify it and simplify what can really make the biggest impact on your process without the biggest hit on your wallet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right before we started talking today, I was actually on a website looking at, 35 different softwares that they swear will revolutionize my business.
Yeah.
And I have maybe 8 in my shopping cart to go with the 10 that I just bought 2 days ago. So yeah. Why do we want technology in our business and why do we want it for content creation especially?
Yeah, no, great question. So I guess for me, it comes down to being able to speed up the processes. In content creation, there can be a lot of manual steps. When you're trying to produce a lot of content, quality content, etc., those steps can get pretty daunting pretty quickly. They can feel like they soak up a huge amount of your time. And so to me, it's really about optimizing the content creator's time. They should be spending their time on the ideation, on, the educational pieces of their content, not on video editing or audio editing or trying to work out how to clip something for a TikTok, for example. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's really about optimizing the whole process and just simplifying it, making it more scalable, really.
Yeah, that's key because, like you said, you're doing blog posts, you're doing videos, you're doing TikToks and Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads, all the things. And every single one kind of needs something different. Yeah. And that can be a full-time job.
Yeah, that's for sure.
To edit all these things and put them out there in the world.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like the number of social platforms, like once upon a time when it was like just Facebook and Twitter, 2 places to post, and it was sort of like image-based content on Facebook and text-based content on Twitter. Now, like you say, there's so many different platforms. Each platform's got their own flavor in terms of the type of content that they like. And so, yeah, like you say, it can feel like a full-time job to be able to create enough content to spread across all the different social platforms if you're trying to cover all of them.
Yeah. One of the things that you and I talked about before we jumped on was just creating hours of content pretty much like in a snap. Yep. So how can you walk us through how something like what that looks like?
Absolutely. So I think, I'm speaking from personal experience, we put out probably around about 300 to 400 pieces of content a month. And that's across all of our social channels. I sort of want to be clear up front that it's, if you go on LinkedIn, you're not going to see 300 pieces of content, right? But by the time you add it up across LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, etc., it adds up pretty quickly. And so to me, there's kind of 2 components. There's the actual technology that can speed up the process, but then there's more of the behind the scenes sort of business process. Like how do you optimize it in a way so that you can maximize the amount of content you can create? So for me, that starts in a few different ways. I like to do all my kind of scripting first. I work out, what this month's topics are going to be. For example, I generally try and have a theme for the month. And if I have a theme for the month, then that immediately starts helping with some of that writer's block. Because if I know what this month's theme is, then I can kind of call on either my personal experience, I can call on customers or other team members to kind of gather some intel on, what are the pain points or what are the exciting parts of that topic that we should cover. Once I've got that scripting in place, the big change for me that really made a difference is, and I feel like this is a mistake a lot of particularly new content creators make. There's this kind of expectation that if you're posting every day, that means you have to pick up your phone and shoot something every day. Definitely a trap I fell into when I first started. And so, what you hear a lot about nowadays is people referring to batching your content, which was an absolute game changer for me. Because now, I set aside probably a couple of days at the start of the month, batch my content creation, just sit down and shoot the entire month's worth of content in a day, and then I can kind of move on to the next steps of kind of editing it for the different platforms. And that was a real game changer for me.
Oh my God, absolutely. Like when I realized I didn't have to physically put out content every single day.
Yeah.
I mean, my mind was blown. And then I went on a search for the best batching software that I could find. And I actually ended up I think I used 2 or 3, which probably defeats the point. But I use 2 or 3 right now just so I can keep up, because like you, I'm not putting out quite 300 yet. I think I'm around 150, 200 pieces of content every month, not including my emails. And having that calendars, it saves so much time and energy, and it takes that manual labor out that you and I were talking about before. It's like just you sit, focus, do it, and then it's out there.
Yeah, and I think from that perspective, there's really there's probably kind of 3 categories if we start then talking about the sort of operational side with the technology that I would kind of categorize the software in. So you've got your initial kind of capture and editing software. You've then got I would kind of categorize it as tools that help you split out a long form content into smaller pieces of content. And then the last one is the actual distribution mechanism. So once again, you don't want to be sitting there having to manually post something to TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. Really, generally one of the quickest and simplest tools to implement that can save you a whole lot of time is something where you put your content in one place and it automatically sends it on a schedule to each of your different social channels. And between those kind of 3 categories of software, I'd say different content creators probably fall into which one of those categories is going to save them the most time. But generally speaking, the distribution part is usually one of the low-hanging fruit in terms of some time and cost savings.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that you broke it down into the 3 that content creators need, because again, it's so easy to just get bogged down with all of the choices. I mean, like you said, you go into Google, you search software for content creators, and you could be there for 5 days just searching. So one of the things when we're talking about automation and with our businesses and softwares, it can really help a lot with driving our sales and increasing how happy our customers are. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That to me has actually been probably one of the most interesting parts of my journey in kind of going from literally starting from nothing. I'd never done any sort of content creation to, where we are today. And I guess, I think probably a lot of us go into it seeing the big flashy kind of social media influencers and, that's kind of, these dreams of I'm going to put content out and it's going to help me generate all these leads and all that kind of thing. And while that's certainly been true for me, my social media content has absolutely generated leads. One of the things that was really surprising and a learning curve to me is how big of an impact that social proof aspect of having your content out there is. I know before really taking the sort of social media aspect seriously, virtually every meeting I would have with a client, there would be this initial phase where it was like you having to prove yourself to them. They'd often never heard of you, maybe like particularly if it was some sort of cold outreach campaign that they had come across you from. There's kind of this phase at the start where it's like, who are you? You know, are you really an expert in this space? That sort of thing. Where nowadays, most of the time when I'm meeting with somebody, even if it's somebody brand new, you know, one of the first things they say is like, I saw this video that you posted, or I saw this like LinkedIn post. And that immediately like adds a level of credibility. It immediately adds like a level of familiarity with you. And so that whole kind of start of the sales conversation, which is like me proving myself, has just disappeared completely. Like I say, to me was a really unexpected kind of consequence, I guess you could say, of social content, which has really helped the sales side of things.
Absolutely. I always say when you are visible, you get paid. So,
Yeah.
you know, and you're just showing that right now, you know, when you're everywhere with your social content, people know you, they start to like you, they trust you. And I should point out, you've been in the software business for what, 15 years or so?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
Exactly.
right? You've sold
Yep.
several startup companies.
Yep.
So you're legit, like you know your stuff. And social proof is how I found you
Yeah.
for this as well. You know, seeing the videos that you've put out and the posts that you put out. And so, guys, being visible.
You know, once you start creating content, you start realizing like how many different ways you can use it. You know, like to that point, you know, I've got a few different offers, a few different solutions that I help people implement. And so if somebody books a meeting with me to do with, say, like mobile app development, the first thing that my automation does is send them some of my videos about, you know, what is mobile app development? Why, you know, these are the things to consider. And so even if they haven't necessarily seen all of my content or that content specifically, once you have those kind of content pillars, then you can really leverage them throughout your kind of sales funnel to help build that social proof before people get on the first call with you.
I like that. And I had something similar to that when I was in network marketing, but I don't think it was as automated as yours because yours is linked to your calendar.
Yeah, exactly. So depending, you know, with my sort of cold or let's call it lukewarm lead generation, depending on sort of which offer people kind of are attracted to, they'll be given a different calendar link. So like mobile apps might be one. Another one is I do a lot of sort of fractional chief technology officer work where I help companies with implementing their technology. And so, you know, I've got two different calendar links for that. If they book through the mobile app one, they'll get a bunch of content about mobile apps before we meet. If they book about kind of the fractional CTO offer, they'll get a bunch of content around, you know, the importance of a fractional CTO in their organization. And that was all content that I originally generated as kind of organic content to try and build up my social proof. And now I'm able to repurpose them, you know, and kind of absorb them into my sales funnel.
Yeah. Let's talk about repurposing. It's one of my favorite things. During this masterclass, I'm actually doing a video on repurposing, but it's legit one of my favorite parts of content creation. And I don't think we can talk about it enough.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite part of repurposing and how, like, what's your process for it?
I think for me, yeah, definitely repurposing as well has been a real eye-opener. If I look at my original process, I used to kind of create longer form YouTube videos, and then I would go away and I would sit there and I would like try and shoot a bunch of short TikTok videos. And it all that time adds up really quickly when you're trying to do all of that. My process now is I just focus on my long form YouTube content to start with. I use that to kind of get the core topic ideas out there. And I structure my scripts in a way where I try and keep sort of grouped ideas together. And so that way, by the time I've got my like one long form edited video, and this is where some of these tools start coming in, and I've got tools that I can run that long form video through, and it will help me identify those little sub segments of topics that I can then chop up into, you know, sub 30-second or sub 1 minute TikTok post, for example. And so immediately, you know, from one YouTube video, I can get anywhere from 4 to 10 kind of TikToks or YouTube shorts or Instagram reels, for example. So that's kind of immediately one repurposed method, you know, and this is exactly how I managed to create so much content. The other one that I really like is nowadays, you know, there's all these tools that can transcribe your content as well. So, you know, you've now got a long form YouTube video. You can use a transcribing tool to pull it out and then edit that into a tweet, drop it into a Canva template to create a, you know, like a nice Instagram photo post. And so from that perspective, yeah, like instead of trying to come up with all of these individual pieces of content, yeah, I create one long form video, and then from that I can repurpose easily 30 to 40 pieces of content, if not more, just from that one video.
Yeah. And the software is what saves you.
Yeah.
I found one and it legit saved me an hour. Just for one project, it saved me an hour.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And I haven't even tapped like its full potential yet.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, that's where I say, the low hanging fruit to me is in terms of even just the posting. It can take so much time just to sit there and like upload a video to Instagram, upload it to TikTok, upload it to Facebook, and then start the whole process again with LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. And so that immediately, like, you can save hours just on having a good distribution tool. But then, yeah, even the time, like once you've got a long form video, to sit there and try and work out like which parts to chop out to turn into short form, even that can be quite a slow process. I know there's times where, like, when I used to do it manually before I sort of found these tools, where you'd sit there and you feel like you'd watch your own video 10 times over trying to find all the kind of important bits you want to cut out. Now, there are tools that you can use that will just automatically try and identify those snippets for you, and then you can just kind of tweak their suggestions rather than having to sit there and figure it all out. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, content creation used to feel like a weeks of work, and now it's kind of days or hours worth of work by the time you add in kind of the software and automation.
It's so much more fun.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to, like, if it's not your full-time job, it's so much more fun to do it, because the creating, at least for me, the creating is the best part. I'm a creative, I'm an artist, I'm a journalist, I'm a writer, actress, producer. Like, that's my thing. I create. And doing all this other slog work is slog work. But having the softwares and the tools just makes it go like that. I'm like, I can do this all day.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, definitely. It absolutely morphed from a chore to something, you look forward to doing every month.
Yeah. And so when we're talking about, like automating and planning, are there any softwares that kind of create a calendar for us where it can say like and maybe we can create one right now, I don't know, but where it's like, this is my business, create a month's worth of topics for me and when I should post. Like, are there softwares out there that do that sort of thing now?
Yeah, so there's a range of different tools. And I think, this is something, I'm not kind of naming names of software today because there are just so many out there. And I don't think there's necessarily always a right and wrong answer. I think, a big part of my philosophy is you've got to sort of work out what your needs are first and then find the software that plugs that gap. Even for me, as somebody with a software background, I found it really important to kind of go through the manual process first, so that I could identify what are the parts that I really hate doing. That was the first one. Is like, whatever I really don't enjoy, that's the first software tool I'm going to go and find to replace my kind of manual process. And so in terms of like scheduling, that absolutely was one of them. And so I tested a number of different tools out there. They all have their own sort of pros and cons. I would say the big thing is looking at the connectivity, first of all. Like, does the platform connect into the social media networks that are important to you? Nowadays, they're getting better and better at sort of, most platforms will have connections into most things. But every now and then, I found this in my experience. There was one that had almost everything but couldn't do LinkedIn, for example. And so then I ended up needing a separate tool to be able to plan my content calendar on LinkedIn. And so over time, that sort of evolved to where I've managed to find something that can do a really good job on all of the platforms that are important to me. So I'd say that's a big part of it, is identifying, what your preferred social platforms are, and then finding the tool that will kind of help you build your calendar around those platforms. And then the other thing is in terms of like what their capabilities are. Like, are they just about building the calendar? Are they able to help with, you being able to post once and have it automatically distribute to multiple channels? And that's where I think some of those pros and cons come in, because I definitely found, some of the tools can be quite clunky. Some of them, they might have been built originally for Facebook and now they're trying to do Instagram and TikTok and that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, the tools are out there, but it definitely needs a bit of analysis up front to work out, what you want it to do, and then find the tool that fits the job. When it comes to software, there's varying degrees of capabilities. And for a lot of people, most of my clients, when they come to me, it's like, it's all just this like black hole that they feel like they're going to throw money into. And so for my offer, what I wanted to provide to the community is, there's no right or wrong answer with a lot of this software. It's a case of really first understanding what the requirements are and then finding the right tech to attach to your needs. And so, so for my offer, what I'd like to offer the community is to sit down and provide sort of that consultation. We can sit down, we can work through what, your needs are, what the pain points are in your content creation process. And then, I've got a library of software behind me that I can reference in terms of like, okay, well, let's, I refer to it often as sort of the puzzle piece strategy, right? So there's all these different puzzle pieces out there, and let's find the right puzzle pieces to fit together to make the solution that you need.
I love that. And I think that's so incredibly generous of you and so helpful. So you guys, all of Charles's information will be on his page, his speaker page. So definitely go and check it out and, take advantage of this amazing offer, because if you haven't started doing like any type of like looking at different software for your business, even if you have, like, this is worth gold, right? Because I am not joking when I say before we started this interview today, I was sitting on my phone and just plowing through all these different softwares for lead gen, for calendars, SEO, for content creation, for distribution, all these different things. And I'm just plopping different ones in my shopping cart. Some are kind of like what I already have. And just, I feel like I go through 20 different softwares a month trying to figure out which ones work best. So your offer is amazing. So you guys take advantage of that. Don't be like me and sit here and try to figure it all out yourself. Go to an expert.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point, because that is, you can sink so much time into testing all of these tools only to get sort of so far and realize that it doesn't do what you need. Or there's the one that always kind of gets on my nerves is like, you get most of the way there and then they hit you with like a big paywall that you got to pay a huge amount of money to get the feature that you really wanted in the first place. And so that's what I'm hoping to be able to help shortcut with this offer is really, let's sit down. I've done the legwork. I've gone through hundreds of these pieces of software to work out, what they all do and which ones are for which scenarios. And yeah, I hope to be able to shortcut that process for everyone.
Thank you for that. You guys, seriously, just do it. Just do it. So Charles, is there anything else that you want to leave with our community right now? Anything, like any last words of wisdom?
Yeah, I think a few things come to mind just in terms of my own journey, because for me, content creation didn't come naturally. It still feels, I'm always learning. I'm always kind of growing. Every year I look on the previous year and kind of cringe at like what I was posting a year ago. And then I know like what I'm posting now in a year's time, I'll probably cringe at. But, I really like the kind of adage that, if you can just kind of improve by 1% each video, then, over time, your content's just going to get better and better. And so, so every video, I would say, don't try and be perfect. Just get it out there to start with, learn from your mistakes. First it's about getting comfortable, even just getting comfortable on camera. And then you can just slowly improve on that each step of the way. On the technology side, the big thing that I try and do is, I'll map out, and I'm constantly doing this even within my own processes in my own business, is, I'll kind of map out what I'm doing and then try and identify the bottlenecks in terms of like, okay, this is the part that's taking me too long. Or sometimes it might not even be too long. It's just, this is the part that when I don't want to shoot a video, it's because I know this part is coming. And that to me is like a clear indicator that that's something I need to automate or outsource or find a better solution for. And, you do that over time, slowly edit out those pieces that make it a chore. And before you know it, it starts becoming a more enjoyable experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Charles Nicholson, co-founder of Right Tech, a software guru, software genius. Thank you so much for sharing your tips and your advice and your amazingly generous offer that I hope people will take advantage of and help save folks some heartache and money and get that content out there.
Yeah,
so thank you.
No, absolutely. Yeah, please, everyone, feel free to reach out anytime. You'll find me on pretty much every social media platform. So whichever one's your preferred one, just look me up, and I'm happy to answer questions about sort of the technology to use anytime.
Awesome. Thank you, Charles. And thank you guys for being with us. And we will see you on the next episode.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.